Well, let's just do this. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Geeks and Company in another episode of the Geek Boutique. This week, we've got a special episode for you guys. We are finally talking Ghostbusters Afterlife. We finally got to see the movie. Haven't had a chance to really talk about it with either my buddy Rob here or Jeff, who unfortunately is not with us today. But we do have, like I said to the folks here, live on Instagram, Mr. Ben Eadie, prop master. Actually, what was your official title on set? It was prop.
It's just props and special effects. The prop master. You got to be careful about that. And like I understand that people just call it prop master, but we just don't want other people to get upset. So I try to be political about it. So
hey, that works for me. That works for me. But thanks for coming back to the podcast, Ben. Really appreciated. And we've got my buddy Rob right here coming back to the podcast as well. What's going on, bud?
Not much. How's it going, everybody? Glad to be back.
Good. Like I said, Jeff, the old man, couldn't make it tonight. He has to be up at like 2:30 or 3 in the morning to go to work. So, we'll forgive him for skipping out on this one.
Movies?
No, actually, I believe he works in warehousing and logistics. So, it is what it is. Like I said, I want to talk about Ghostbusters Afterlife here. I do have a bunch of other topics, Ben, that I want to talk to you about. I know Rob has some questions.
Uh-oh.
Rob's gone digging around a little bit. Rob is my professional stalker. Let's call him that way. Professional stalker.
Yeah.
He's gone and snooped around a little bit and found out some stuff, or at least picked up on some stuff that perhaps we want to find out about. But Ghostbusters Afterlife. I don't know if everybody here in the live, if you have not seen Ghostbusters Afterlife, we're going to be spoiling stuff. I'm telling you guys right now. So if you don't want the movie spoiled, get out of here right now. If you haven't seen it, I don't understand people that have not seen this movie yet because, man, what a wicked movie!
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Well, it's good. I'm glad you liked it.
I was very worried going into this movie that it was going to be a kids movie. When they announced that it was going to focus around kids, my first instinct was, "Oh my God, here we go!" They're trying to cash in on a property that we were fans of, and they're making it for kids that aren't going to care about this movie. But that's not what it was at all.
No.
It was, for all intents and purposes, Ghostbusters 3. It really was.
Yeah, it was. You were worried, dude. I was thinking, like, I'm gonna have so many people hate me because I got something wrong. I'm still to this day. I'm just waiting for the bomb to drop, and I see something stupid, and I'm all screwed.
Somebody points out some inaccuracy from original.
Oh, there's tons of inaccuracies, and we're just playing. We're playing the "it's been a few years" card, right? Things change.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I mean, and maybe I can quickly go over the very basic synopsis of the movie for those, again, that maybe have not seen it. This obviously happens, I guess it's 30 years after the original Ghostbusters. Egon has basically left his family behind to move into this farm in the middle of nowhere, USA. We don't know why. Everybody there thinks he's crazy. His family hates him because they left him behind. Egon passes away at the hands of you-know-who, leaves the farmhouse to his family, who then come to town. And that's where the adventure starts. Now you get the kids finding all the gear, the Ecto-1. When Finn Wolfhard lifts the cover for that fraction of a second that you see the logo, like, it's Ecto-1! I freaked out when I saw that. So they start busting ghosts. The movie ends with the original Ghostbusters coming back. Literally all of the original Ghostbusters coming back, which is something I want to talk about as well because that was so well done. Maybe my first question, unrelated to the movie itself, but maybe more related to the production. Were you on set when the guys showed up?
Oh yeah, yeah. I was in charge of Bill for his pack for the most part, and he's everything you'd want him to be. You know. So yeah, no, but I was there for those scenes for sure.
So, what was the ambiance like when these guys show up on set? Now, did you guys film it at the end, by the way, or was that filmed at the beginning, or like where was it filmed in chronological order of the filming period?
Well, so Dan was there pretty much from start to finish, right?
Oh, was he really? Oh, I
really,
didn't realize
yeah,
that.
yeah. And Ernie showed up a little before Dan did because there were some scenes. There was a bunch of scenes, like every movie you're gonna have cutscenes. So there's a bunch of stuff that he shot that didn't get used. And then Bill showed up. I think they were there for about 2 weeks, all three of them together.
Oh wow.
And well, maybe more of a week. Like no, I seem to recall it was a couple of weeks. Anyways, yeah, and it was near the end of the show, when everything was being wrapped up and stuff. Like they were there, I would say 1 or 2 weeks before we wrapped the entire production. So yeah.
So when these guys came out in their Ghostbusters uniform, I mean, everybody was
everybody
giggling like little kids, right? As these guys are walking through the field in their
there
Ghostbusters
was less
suit.
giggling and more just like, they'd walk down the hallway of the studio and people are like, right?
Like, just stops and stares.
You see stuff like that on the screen and you never think to see it live, right? It's something else.
I bet.
And then Egon. You guys had oh my god, I can't believe I forget his name now. The gentleman that played Egon. God, he was on Star Trek. He was on Stargate. He was on so many things.
Names I can't even tell you.
I forget his name.
Yeah, names are not my strength either.
For those of you that don't know and maybe haven't seen, or do you know the story? I'm assuming you know the story. I mean, Jason Reitman's gone on TV. He's told it to like 1 million people by now. I'm assuming you're able to tell the story quickly of how they went about creating Egon.
Yeah, as far as like they had stand-ins, the one actor that came in, he wasn't the only one. There was a stunt guy that did a lot of the stuff too. And yeah, it is what it is. Man, I'm stumbling all over words. I really got nothing other than what Jason said. The other thing too, you got to keep in mind, and I love hearing about some of the other behind the scenes stories from Arjun and from Jason and all these other people, because your experience and your viewpoint it's amazingly different than everybody else's. And you don't necessarily know why one actor is there, or you don't necessarily know why this is being filmed a certain way, but Jason will, or Arjun will know it was made, or
Bob Gunther
creature was made a certain way, right?
Tommy B saying it's Bob Gunther. That's what it is.
And so it's one of those where the scenes with him were quite somber, because everybody realized that this isn't just a movie. This is homage to an actor and a friend and a writer and an amazing man that I never got to meet. And his daughter was there, and it was difficult for everybody to remain composed and not hurt. In fact, I feel like I'm tearing up right now, because it was a very emotional time.
Well, I mean, and it came across that way on screen.
You could feel it.
I mean,
for sure.
Listen, when all three turn around and look at him, I mean, I was all choked up. Yeah, like it was amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
No, it definitely reached back into your youth and tickled it a little bit, for sure.
And that's one of the things I thought about Ghostbusters is the production. I don't know what the proper word that I'm trying to say here, but everything from the score to the sound effects to the lighting effects to the way it was filmed to the special effects, it was very Ghostbusters. Unlike Ghostbusters 16, which was very different in its look, this was a continuation of the other one in its production design. Down to the I was actually watching a documentary on, again, I forget his name, the gentleman that scored this movie, how he was inspired by the score of the original movie. And listening to that documentary, I'm realizing, wait a second, it wasn't the same score at all. But when you're listening to it, it feels like it's the same thing. You feel like it's the exact same score, and it's not.
Modernized.
It really did. And it worked, but it really worked.
Yeah, you got to remember, Ivan was there the whole time too, and so to make sure that you get that stamp, that flavor of the universe, but it wasn't just Ivan. It's not like Jason didn't get it. He totally gets what needed to be done and stuff, and I admire his work ethic and the way he lays things out. It was one of those things where I love the way he works as a director because it makes so much sense to me. And when it makes sense to me, it makes it really easy for me to do my job for him. And then he likes the production or the stuff I give him. It ends up being this really neat symbiotic relationship. And not only you go to other sets or other producers and directors and, you can struggle, it's, you just might be on the wrong team. But this was, I like to think that it was a really good fit.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously, if you could tell watching this movie that everybody that worked on this movie was a passion project for them because every little detail for me was on the mark. I don't even know how to put it any better.
Some of the hiring process I went through, this is my impression. So I only know how I felt coming through. And it seemed to be more how much of a fan are you than it was how much talent do you have that you can apply to this movie. I wouldn't say they didn't give a damn about that, but it was far more important that you were a fan and that you would honor the franchise kind of thing. Yeah,
definitely. A couple comments here coming through. Canadian Comic Cutie is saying, hey, what's going on? Hypergate Cosplay, Marion is basically saying the chills when the Egon scene, total chills.
Oh,
I mean, it was,
Yeah.
Cilicia, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this correctly. Cilicia Lily is asking, have you guys met Finn Wolfhard? Well, no, I have not. Ben obviously
I have.
He's on set with him throughout the whole filming of the movie. How were the actors? I mean, again, I know you got to be careful about what you say there, but I mean, I hear so many horror stories sometimes about some sets, and you don't have to get into horror stories, but
no, but this was one of those movies where everybody wanted to be there, and because of that, you have different personality types, but all the actors and everybody, because you want to be there, you work with everybody, and it was great. Everybody's got their quirks, like you have to know Bill will walk off the set with the proton pack and everything if you're not there to grab it from him, and slowly but surely it's like, oh, there's a table, I'll put that down here and put the pack over here and just keep, so you're literally running behind him grabbing stuff. I remember once the costume department grabbed me, they're like, man, I'm like, what? They're like, Bill's leaving. I'm like, ah.
He's taking the pack again.
And it's not that he's mean or spiteful or anything like that. It's just who he is, and as long as you know that, it's awesome to deal with him. So, and he realizes he can be a lot of work, and he just makes sure that, like, everybody, he gives you a pat on the back and thanks you, and sometimes that can mean a little more than the paycheck does.
I totally see that. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I want to know, and this is something that maybe not only you, but in this situation, only you can answer us. When you're watching the movie, so when the movie comes out and you sit down and watch the movie, are you somehow able to enjoy the movie as a fan still, even though, like, I can only imagine, like, if I'm on set working through the movie, when I'm then sitting and watching the movie, all I'll be able to think about is, oh yeah, we were doing this and we were doing that. We had to do 46 takes for that one.
And the thing is that you have to, I'm the kind of person that generally will only watch a movie once. But there are a few exceptions, that I like to watch. But when you work on a show, I always go in on the first one. I just kind of just let it go over me. And you're right, all the critiques and, oh, I did that wrong. Or
I don't know if you guys are still live, FYI.
That made the cut. But the second time around, you can really absorb it. Yeah.
Rob, I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if you guys can still hear each other.
Oh, we seem to have lost.
I think we've lost Jess on the live here. You're just spinning.
Yeah, my phone for some reason decided to shut down
Just give
and
me a second
restart.
here, and I'm going to switch my again.
Nope. There you go.
Oh, great.
You should see the invite.
There we go. Connecting. There we go.
Hey,
Perfect. All righty. So for those, we've got nobody left. We've got Hyper Geek Cosplay.
We got a
Jen
few
left.
people.
Everybody else has dropped, but again, sorry about that. It is what it is.
Stuff
People are joining back slowly. Again, sorry everybody. We screwed this up. Screwed the pooch. I somehow.
Come on,
it's Instagram's infrastructure. Yeah, it's the cloud. Right? This is what happens when you move stuff to the cloud.
I know. Damn Instagram. No, I'm just kidding. But I crashed my phone somehow and it rebooted on its own. But so yeah, so sorry, Ben, I cut you off while you were in the middle of explaining to us, you know, trying to watch a movie that you've worked on and still being able to enjoy it as
right,
you know, a fan, really.
Yeah, the first time I watch a show, generally it is that technical and you're fine-tooth combing it. Second time, a lot of that, because you've kind of gotten it out of your system, you can enjoy it. Third time, yes, I've watched it many times. Third time was definite. Just sit back and just ear to ear grin. You know, you suck it in and just take it for what's there and enjoy the story. Because, like, you know, it's also, you know how you read a novel and you see a movie and it's different than a novel. Scripts do that, but much less dramatic. So there's a lot, like, obviously it's going to follow the script for the most part, but there's things that'll get dropped or added that you might not have been a part of. Even, like, you know, there's always going to be a reshoot. There's always that little special scene where it's like, when the hell did that happen?
Yeah, and I can imagine oftentimes in editing, the way that you see the scene unfolding while you're watching these takes happening isn't necessarily the way it's going to be edited together, and the scene can have a completely different meaning just in the editing, right? So and depending on the intonations that they use and the expressions that they decide to use in their cut, and yeah, so I can imagine that being a little bit weird. Listen, I'm hiding my clock here, so we're only 20 minutes in, but Ben, I want to move away from Ghostbusters a little bit, everybody. We're going to come back to Ghostbusters because I want to talk about it some more. But there's a lot going on in the movie industry in Calgary right now. I guess there's a lot of tax breaks that are being offered and grants and so on and so forth. Is it as booming as they're making it sound online right now? Like,
oh yeah, so it's not like a bunch of grants and stuff. Like BC and Manitoba and Ontario offer some pretty decent tax breaks for productions, and it's been proven over and over again that for every tax dollar that you give to the production, you get $3 back, right? And our government for the longest time was saying, no, everything's oil and gas and hoo-ah, and let's, you know, get the crude out. And, they completely missed the boat. And finally, I absolutely hate my current provincial government, but they're the first government that realized that when things are going bad, that, hey, maybe we should try this and see if it would make any difference. And when they changed the tax credits to something that they could, we went from one studio in Calgary to 3 main setups and 5 total because they were buying warehouse spaces to be used. Now, since then, like right now, there's only one main production going through, but this production's like, it's The Last of Us, and it's freaking huge. So it's occupying most of these spaces, but there's a lot of other things coming. You know, Fraggle Rock's gonna be, like, I worked on Fraggle Rock, and that's coming out in a few
He's
days,
answering all our questions.
You're blowing all my questions here.
and so sorry.
We're coming back to that.
You know, but the thing is that, like, for many years, I flew back and forth to Vancouver for work, and then I would go to LA, and then there were some international spots, and I really missed my family, and now I get to work at home. Now you can stay home.
Yeah, well, that's awesome for the city of Calgary.
But at the same time, I don't think my wife was prepared for when I told her, like, I'm working really stupid hours, and I don't think you quite understand. You know, when we're doing another show, I'm not going to spoil anything. Another show that was here, I was working on, and I was doing like 16-hour days. So I'd wake up before she did. I'd go to work. And I come back and she'd already be in bed, and it's just like, hey, how's it going? And she's like, I can't believe it. I'm like, this is my Vancouver life. When I say I'm working my butt off, I'm working my butt off. And so the only difference was I got to see my kids every weekend versus every second or third weekend when I flew home. Right.
Yeah, I want to talk about Fraggle Rock. I mean,
dude, you know, it was ask questions. I got to be careful about that one.
Well, I mean, look, I was a fan of Fraggle Rock when I was a kid. My thing is, I grew up in Quebec, in a very small town in Quebec, where we only had 2 TV channels. So Fraggle Rock for me was a French experience, not an English experience. So even when I watched the trailer, I'm like, oh, like it looks like Fraggle Rock, but it doesn't sound like Fraggle Rock to me, right? And Rob is all like, oh my God, it's Fraggle Rock.
I'm like, Ben's posting about Fraggle Rock. We got to ask him about that.
So, I mean, first of all, it doesn't look like it's a reboot at all. It's a continuation of Fraggle Rock. It looks like it's exactly it's the same totally characters and
watch the very last episode of the 80s and it's gonna tie in so tightly. This is gonna blow you away. I absolutely loved it when I was going through some of the scripts for that.
Now, what was your role on Fraggle Rock?
I was in props, and I ended up sort of working. Doozer World would be the best way to explain what I did. So a lot of the vehicles that you see them in, remember, I didn't design any of this. I'm not like, I'm an okay artist, but I'm not the art department. The art department does the conceptual stuff. And so we were tasked with building what they drew up. And like, there's some great Doozer vehicles in the trailers that you see. There's the monorail in the background. You know, that's, build that up and get it so it moves. And we didn't have enough time originally to have it powered. So the first few episodes they're going to be hand pulled until we could get motors into it. But we had other fish to fry. It was a bit of a struggle at some points. But
because you had to recreate a lot of the original sets as well for this. All of the original sets. I mean, none of the sets existed anymore, right? Like,
yeah. As far as I know, but yeah, they were all built from scratch, and this, they look like, but they aren't necessarily exactly like the originals. Right. But there's the pool and the concept and the cave. It's all there.
Are they all new puppets?
Most of them are, but there were. I know of 3 for sure that were the old puppets. I'm not going to say which ones and stuff, partly because I know what they look like and I know where they belong, but I can't tell you their names. At the same time, most of that stuff, these puppets they're old, and no, not many were used.
Rob, do you know their names?
No, I can't. I can't list the names right now.
Well, no. None of the main characters that I'm aware of. How about that? Some of the smaller creatures, and they weren't the Doozers either. Doozers, we saw some of the old Doozers, and wow, they're old.
Yeah, that's
definitely not using those things, right? But the same armatures, the same mechanisms, so the motions and everything do match exactly, because as far as the skeletons go, they are the same.
That's one of the things I noticed when I was watching the trailer, is that when you watch them move, they look like they moved back then. Like the physical movements look identical as what they were back then, which I think was amazing.
And even like a lot of that was, remember, that's out of the Doozers themselves. That was like the creature shop. They would deal with the Doozers. I was working on more the if things were moving and stuff, so vehicles and that sort of stuff.
Right.
But when I looked at some of the Doozers and everything, the same radio control mechanisms and everything was still there. And like, when you think back, like, 30 years when this closed down, that sort of science and everything is still valid and useful today. And I don't know of many technologies that were so advanced back then that they can pull their weight now. Like, you look at this and I really admire the puppeteers and the people that designed these things, because, like, wow, they were really cool.
Yeah, go ahead, Rob. I can see you want to ask a question there. Go right ahead. Jump right in.
No, I didn't have any question, but I agree with you. The puppeteering is really cool. And I love that, they're doing that. There's so many options to do movies now, and that they could have recreated this as an animation or some sort of, and in fact, to go back to those old technology like that. And it gives you that same feeling that I got from Ghostbusters, where it felt authentic and continuation of the continuity, and that's what it looks like we're going to get out of Fraggle Rock, perhaps the same type of feeling.
Because let's be honest, they could have totally used like Unreal 5 to recreate Fraggle Rock in complete CG and make it look like they're puppets, but it being all CG. That would have been easy for them to do.
It wouldn't be
the same.
And the thing is that Henson has sort of like a standing order that everything gets done in camera, right? Like there is a few blue screen and green screen. Blah, I'll learn to talk one day. Blue screen and green screen situations, but past that, everything's live in the camera, and that's kind of what gives you that feel, right?
And this is a Jim Henson production.
Yeah.
And is it Apple TV?
I think it's Apple TV.
Yes, it is.
It is Apple TV, and it is a series, right? So it's not a movie. It's an actual. Right. Do you know how many episodes we're gonna get? Has that been announced?
13.
I don't know if it's been 13. Okay, so since you said that, it does sound right. I can neither confirm nor deny that.
I think I googled it.
Full run. Yeah, I wasn't there for the full run. I was only there at the very beginning. I had a different job offer, and I had to go and take that one partway through. But it wasn't So I got the sort of the first block. So the first 4 episodes had a lot of my fingers in it, and then the remainder, there's still some of the stuff I worked on in them, but less Ben in there, I guess.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Did you happen to work on Last of Us at all? Are you involved in that project?
I was asked to, and other things have come up. So no, I haven't worked on Last of Us. The good portion of my friends are, though, and from what I hear from the trenches, it sounds pretty decent.
Yeah, it's looking pretty decent. We're a big video game family here, so I'm looking forward to what comes out of that production.
Yeah, you guys were huge fans of both of them, really. The Last of Us.
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah, but and you guys know this because you were at the Fan Expo. Is that I did work on the Predator that's in the can and being edited right now. So the one that's going to be coming out.
Which the title seems to change every time I hear something about it. They have a different title for it.
Is it called Prey now?
Right now, I think it's called Prey or something like that.
Well, Prey was the, I think that was what was on our scripts and everything.
Well, then that's not the title they're calling it now. Then. Anyway, I feel like every time I see anything about that, they give it a different name or title, but that is basically an origin story, or at least that's what the promotional material is saying. Is it's an origin story to the Predators.
Again, that's territory. I gotta be so careful about talking about.
I mean, that must be coming out soon, though, right?
Coming out this year, right?
As far as I know, it should be, and I believe it is a streaming. I'm not sure if it's going to be a theater show or not.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't realize that. And then it wasn't filmed in Calgary, though, was it?
Yes, it was.
Oh, it was.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so there's a lot of stuff going on in Calgary. Yeah, you know what? They are still calling it Prey. Yeah. Sorry, no, Skulls.
Skulls. There we go. You're right.
Skulls
was the name. Man, I was even there and I forget about this stuff, man. I'm just gonna. I just turned 50, so I'm just gonna use that as the excuse. I'm old as dirt, man. I'm. You know how you have that curve and you're on the way down? Like I am accelerating.
Believe me, buddy.
I don't know. I mean, you're picking up a bunch of big names here and doing a lot of work on a lot of interesting projects. So.
Yeah, you seem to be hitting all the geek-worthy franchises.
Yeah,
like Predator and Fraggle Rock,
Ghostbusters,
Star Trek.
Star Trek. So I think Indiana Jones and Star Wars are kind of on my radar now. So if John Favreau is watching this, John, I'm here for you, man.
I very much doubt Mr. Favreau is watching this little YouTube channel, but hey, who knows?
You might be surprised who's watching what.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Black Captain Kirk here joined us. He's saying Hulu, I thought, for the streaming service. And yes, I think you're right, Tim. When I'm looking at the description here, it does say for oh, wait a second. It actually says it will debut on Disney Plus sister streaming service Hulu. Disney Plus owns Hulu now?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Disney.
See, we don't
Disney
get Hulu up here in
everybody,
Canada,
man.
right? So
Disney owns everything. Yeah.
fair enough. Fair enough. You know, Ben, I think I told you this last time we were talking. I first discovered who Ben Eadie was not through you working on movies, but through your foam chainmail on all the different cosplay groups when you created the foam chainmail. Disney owned but too mature. Okay, I didn't realize that. So you what makes Ben tick? Like when you're not working on movies and you're not building props for Ghostbusters or for a video series that you may or may not be working on for Sony. What do you do? Like, I mean, obviously you've got the foam armory that you've been working on building, creating stuff for the cosplay scene.
Right.
But I don't think I've ever actually seen you cosplay. Do you cosplay at all?
You know, I've always helped others cosplay because my enjoyment is in the build. I absolutely adore being in the shop, and as I'm sort of rising through the ranks and stuff, I'm finding less and less shop time, so I'm becoming more and more bitter. But no, I do have a few things I want to do. I've never really, you know, I've made pieces and I've just never really gotten to it. There's because I like making foam arms or like armor. And I can make fairly realistic stuff. Is I've got a design for a Ghostbuster, but a medieval Ghostbuster. So I'm thinking like that kind of thing. And so that's one thing I'm working on. And maybe one day we'll have to see. But yeah, you know what makes me tick, man. It's ADHD fueled by a pot of coffee, and I don't know. I think the best description I've heard from any of my friends, because everybody thinks I'm a nut job, is that I'm just a high collar cape and monocle away from evil scientists. So
so you're just like Rob over here then.
I'm gonna say when you have time to do your own thing and you get some you time, you probably go to build something, right? Like what are you going to build
absolutely.
that makes you refreshes your energy? That's what I get pleasure out of building stuff. What do you get pleasure out of building for yourself?
Yeah, you know, totally. And what do it's anything. I love the just design and discovery. I like being given a problem and then figuring it out and then, you know, designing, executing up against it. You know, what I'm not good at is that, you know, I've got my business partner, Stephanie Chan, who does the chainmail and stuff and sells and does everything, is that she is like God sent to me, because that's a portion that I can't do. Once I've got it all sussed out and I figured it out and it looks good, I'm done. Right? I can help with the manufacturer and figuring out how to mass produce, but you know, after that, I don't want anything to do with
the
this
problem solving.
Yeah, and that can be a problem because that's not going to earn you any money. that's going to earn you with the attitude that, like, you know, why would I buy it when I can build it for like 10 times more and do it in 6 months instead of getting it from the shelf now? Like, God, who would do that?
I don't know. I have no idea who would do that stuff. I mean, no clue. Although we were talking a little bit about that last weekend, though.
Right?
Yeah.
PKE, right? Buy. That's great. I've been working on this for 2 years as a cutaway that I'm working on, and like, so, you know,
oh, that's very cool.
It's a couple of years, hours and hours and hours and hours of work, or I could have just bought, but no.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we talked a little bit about this last week, and for me anyway, there's a sense of pride in I made this.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Like I'm the one that made my costume. I'm the one that made my props. Sure, I could go and buy a lot of this stuff, but I don't know. There's that whole, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with people that buy their costumes or their props. No. That's not what I'm saying at all. For me, because I am much more of a maker than a cosplayer, I like you. I like the making process. So there's a pride for me in making stuff, even if it does take longer and end up costing more, for sure.
Yeah. And one thing that this is where there was a really interesting crossover. So at the Toronto Comic Con was the first con that I've gone to. Stephanie's been chilling our stuff at other places, but we had people show up and they're like, "Hey, I know you guys, and this is what I made." I get like, you can't see this. I got goosebumps every time I see somebody come up and go, "Look what you helped me do," and you just like the pride is just overwhelming. It's so cool to see what people could take your idea and then run with it and really make something awesome.
Yeah, when we first met, so was it Toronto Comic Con, the first con you went to?
No, it was. Oh no, sorry.
The one that
the con we met wasn't Comic Con. No.
Yeah. So that day, I remember Jess was in front of me, and he goes, "Oh, it's Ben Eadie," but he recognized you from the Armory, and of course, I'm struggling to see through my mask, and I'm like, "Oh, who's Ben Eadie?" And then he's like, "He worked on the Ghostbusters." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome." And then we chatted about the costumes that Jess and I made, and we showed you how we did the sound effects with the button, and you gave, I think you said, "Oh, that's awesome, man. Try using magnets." The
magnets for the switches.
And I was like, "That's genius." So like, that's all I can think about after. I'm like, "Why didn't I do that?" So I did that, and I put it on there, and just that suggestion that you made sparked so much creativity in me, and I went home and modified it. And
don't ever beat yourself up because I didn't think about this, because everybody, I was talking to somebody recently, and I'm doing a video series, and for the most part it's out there. Sony's funding me to do a video series on a rebuild of an RTV that got destroyed on set. And when we got the RTV, there's things where you look at it and you're like, why would you build it that way, right? And you're like, oh my God, like why is it done this way? And it can be frustrating. But I realized that there's not that much of a difference if I built it. The only difference is it would still be a struggle. It would still be frustrating. It's just I would have imparted different problems, right? Yeah. So you got to keep in mind that like I just knew about magnetic switches because I've used them, but I'm 99.9% positive you're going to throw a trick at me that might just go, oh my God, why did I not know this?
Okay, so you brought up the RTV, and it's funny that you brought that up because me and Rob were actually geeking about that a little bit yesterday because he figured out what actual RC car was used.
I'm not going to take the credit for that because
you guys know a guy that you could talk to.
Well, fair enough, but actually, I think he actually found out from you. I think in one of your videos.
I think you were answering on on Twitter or something.
Yeah. So for those of you that are watching right now, what we're talking about is in the Ghostbusters movie. There's a remote controlled ghost trap. I'm not going to spoil how it was used, but I'm going to tell you, for me, that was the coolest gimmick to come out of that movie. The one new cool thing that came out of the new Ghostbusters was the RC ghost trap, the RTV. It was amazing. Yeah. And Rob's like, oh yeah, they were using the Traxxas, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah. And I remember you're watching the movie and you're like, how's this little RTV going? Like, they must be doing 70 kilometers an hour. Like, how's it keeping up? Sure enough,
it actually goes 30 miles an hour.
Yeah. No, but the thing is with the 2-cell battery, those things can go probably about 60 kilometers an hour with a 3-cell, which is 13.4 volt or whatever. Yeah. They will do 80 clicks.
That's
but can you manage it at 80 clicks? No, but you can keep up with the car, dude. It was freaking
that's
crazy.
Wicked. It's fast enough that it looks really fast on film. Like you make it look like they're flying down the street. Well, they are at 80 kilometers an hour. They're flying down the street.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Hey, Vanito just joined. What's going on, Vaughn? Ben Taylor's joined. We've got a lot of people coming in and out. Let's see here. There's a bunch of comments that were happening while we were talking here. Paco 93. What was the rationale for the mechanical cycle lights as opposed to blinking LEDs? The cyclotron lights.
The cyclotron.
Yeah,
the cyclotron.
How did that come up?
So like this is everybody's sort of interpretation of stuff, and I'll be honest, I was overjoyed when I saw that because when I originally watched it as a kid, I saw those lights. Yes, they blinked on and off. But my head was going, there's something in there spinning.
Exactly,
that
because they blinked
and
it blinked and it blinked and it blinked. Right? It looked like something was turning.
Exactly.
Yes. It's
So
a cyclotron.
Jason was like, if this thing's got to spin. So they said we want a light spinning that in behind it, and I didn't build the props. I was sort of tasked with maintaining them, but I did a few little tweaks here and there. Like they only went one speed. I made sure the radio control every last pack so you could ramp it up, so it would slowly spool up and go. And this is so cool. I was so happy on the first time I saw the show. The sound you hear that pack make is the sound it freaking makes, man. It was so cool.
The actual proton packs make the actual sounds that they make in the movie?
Okay, the spin up, that mechanical.
Yeah.
That is the motor inside the pack making that sound. The full on ambiance sound, of course, has been sort of jacked up and made to sound way better. But that's the sound. They took sound samples of the pack to make sure that it went. So like hearing the pack I heard the pack on set. Oh, dude, that was so exciting. RTV sounds like that. You got this sort of little mesh gear sort of, and you could hear that little nuance in it. It makes me so freaking happy.
and that's, and that's where sometimes I feel like it can be a disadvantage. Like I was asking you earlier about watching a movie when you've worked on it. I feel like sometimes for me in my mind it would be a disadvantage, but at the same time you get to geek out in a completely different way that we'll never get the chance to experience, right? Because you were there and hearing and feeling and smelling and touching, and very different experience than watching the movie, obviously.
And the thing is watching movies that I've worked on with me is probably it can't be a good thing, because I absolutely hate people that interrupt and ask me questions while I'm watching a movie, right? And I'll be there going like, that was me. I did that. Do you see that? No, what really happened? They're just like, fucking let me watch.
We've got looks like one of your old roommates here, Chin Matt, saying I lived with Ben back in our college army days. Love seeing how successful you've become. A couple thumbs up.
Yeah. Hey Matt, how you doing, man? It's awesome to see you. Oh yeah, totally.
So
he's a crazy man, but gotta love him.
Are you working now?
I am, but it's more self-employed. So given COVID and everything, I'm one of those immunocompromised people. I've got decreased, like a little history of Ben. It'll be brief, but I've been hit by lightning twice. I've had 40 broken bones, 600 plus stitches, facial reconstruction, collapsed lungs, all sorts of stuff. So my lung capacity is really compromised. So I got to be super careful. So I'm not working and trying to see what I can do with my YouTube channel. And Sony has been asking me to do a little sort of behind the scenes stuff for their YouTube channel. They're being super kind and letting me put some stuff on my channel. And I'm just trying to build things up and see if I can sort of maybe have some part-time stuff, and maybe it'll work out to I can get into another show eventually. But right now, no, I'm just kind of being me.
So you're not working on a production right now, is what you're saying?
No,
you're doing stuff, but not actively working on a production.
No, I want to, but it's just not in the cards right now.
Yeah, and I mean, at least it gives you a chance to do stuff that you like, right? It gives you a chance to, at the same time, recharge. And I mean, because you've been going at it quite a bit lately. You've been working on a lot of stuff
recharge. Lately. I was talking with my wife recently, and my idea of recharge is I'm flat out just like I would be on a movie set. I don't know if I know how to stop. Actually, okay, so but there is other people's. I remember the Matt Chin that's on in the talk here. That guy never ever stops. Oh my god, him as a roommate, like, it's exhausting, man. You want to have a nap and he's like, let's go for a run.
So we don't know what's next. I mean, I know you said you worked on something, a little secret project that we can't talk about, but listen, if I was able to one day set up a bit of a let's say a build perhaps a couple of fairly semi well-known builders and costumers in the business, is that something that might be of interest to you? Doing a little bit of a build-off series.
all over that, man, because like, somebody's got to take the win, right?
Well, listen, I suppose if it's not
a challenge,
I mean, I just hope it's not rigged, but yeah. Hey, so
No,
for those
I'm not the best builder in the world, and I'll never purport to be, but I'm gonna smack talk just for fun.
You built, or is it you? I mean, when you went to Adam Savage channel and you built his proton pack, the end of the series, you gave him was there a name for that thing that you
the
gave
wall
him?
plaque. Yeah, you know what? I did not build that. That's done by a guy named Shannon Chappell here in town. And he is, the guy is talented beyond belief. So he's going to be going places. And he came on about halfway through Ghostbusters. He was already working on something in Winnipeg. But I knew sort of coming in that we'd need him to come, and so yeah, he came in and he helped out, and I asked for a few commissions and stuff on the side, and yeah, that's one of his products. I didn't help with that at all. I think that was entirely him, because at the end of the show, I was so busy, but I wanted to have something to take with me to San Francisco, so I'm just like, hey man, can you do this? And he knocked her out.
Oh, that's hilarious. I, for some reason, was under the impression you actually made that for Adam. I didn't realize that was somebody else. And this guy, was he working on the Ghostbusters production as well?
He was.
Okay.
But he made that after the production was done. And it was, him and a guy named Peter White were both integral to making everything look as good as it did.
Yeah. I want to get back to the movie. Because I feel like we're deep enough into this. We're 15 minutes in now, and again, if people have not seen the movie, well, now it's your own damn fault if you're still watching. Gozer is back. Jason somehow had the idea of literally bringing the story full circle.
Yep.
Like literally. It started with Gozer, and it literally ends with Gozer. When you're on set and you realize, first of all, did you know? Like, did they hide things from you guys on set? Did you know?
They hide stuff from us all the time.
So when you're on set and all of a sudden Gozer comes out, did you know at that point Gozer was coming out, or was this a oh my god moment? We didn't realize what the hell was going on.
I got to read the script way at the very beginning. First day I was there, was handed the script, right, because like for what I needed to do. So I knew what was coming in. Some of the people that were playing parts, I had no idea. Even when they were right there in front of me until afterwards, and then you find out who it is, you're like, holy crap.
So did they give you the whole script at once, or do they just give you the chunk you're working on?
No, it all depends on your position and where you're at in the movies. But generally, if you get the script, you get the whole thing. You'll sometimes just get the dailies, which is sort of like, this day's shots and stuff like that. But for me to plan when you need certain props and what scenes are being made and what needs to be where, I need to know the whole picture. And the only way that can happen is if you give me the script, and then you give me the breakdown of when you're shooting and everything. So I had a pretty good idea of everything. Didn't have that full vision that Jason did, and now that I've worked with him and some of his favorite people and producers on some other shows, he knows what movie he's shooting. He's got it all in his head before the camera rolls, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of those where you just the vision is just I love it. Yeah.
It's funny you say that, because I've heard a lot of stories about how some movie productions literally dailies change the direction of the movie every day. Scripts are coming in and it's completely changed the direction of the movie. I'm assuming that's not something that was happening on this set.
No, this was very tight and like, things change here and there, but
for sure
but like, as far as movies that change along the way, like the last Predator that was out in theaters that I worked on,
Predators,
what the script that I worked on and what was in the movie, I sat and looked at the movie. I'm like, I enjoyed it, but I'm like, this is not the movie I worked on.
Right.
Like, oh my goodness. Like, yeah, it was entirely different.
But that movie had a lot of reshoots though, didn't it?
It did. And I had some buddies of mine working on the reshoots, and they were just like, this is not anywhere near the same story that you think it was. Yeah.
Huh. No, that's always interesting to me. And I know we've had this discussion last time, Ben, and I guess you have to be able to detach yourself a little bit from the work you're doing. But for me, when I'm building something, I put so much of myself and my pride and my blood and sweat and tears into these things that I don't know how I would react working on a production like that. And then the movie comes out and it's not at all what I was working on. And it's like, what the hell is this?
Your feet isn't even in it.
There was a couple lessons I learned on my first major show, which was Star Trek Beyond. And one is that don't ever expect that your name's going to be in credits, right? Credits is this really shitty black hole of political nonsense. I don't know how else to put it. So you don't ever expect that you're going to be in credits. Now, that being my first major show, I was bummed I never got credit. Like IMDb and the people that really need to know what I did, no, and I'm good with that. Right. And there were things that I worked on that never made it to the screen. And I was kind of bummed about that. But you know, hindsight being 2020 is I just let the whole credits thing go. It doesn't bother me anymore. I don't really care. But you know, I can see others where it hurts, and I can see that hurt in their eyes when that I felt on Star Trek, but no longer feel. In fact, my wife was pissed. She's like, "Why is your name up there?" But at the same time, with stuff that doesn't get on there, because I love the build, because I like doing things, I just look back and go, I got paid a boatload of money to fuck around as a 12-year-old kid with like some engineering knowledge. I'm good with that, man. You know?
Yeah, you got to do something you love. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We still got some people coming in and out of the chat here. We've got a pretty constant roll. Not a lot of conversations and questions. Not as you know what, and that's my own fault. I freaking dumped everybody earlier. I somehow shut down the live. I know. I'm sorry, everybody. For everybody that's just joining us now, we're sitting here. We're recording the podcast live right now. We've got Ben Eadie with us, my buddy Rob. We've been talking about Ghostbusters. We've talked about a little bit about the movie industry in Calgary, Fraggle Rock. A little bit about Ben himself, what really gets Ben going. You know, we've covered a bunch of topics. I didn't want this to become an interview, but really, that's all we've been doing is basically asking questions.
I like hanging out and talking about me. I'm not, you know, I
like talking about myself. What can I say?
Is that like, you know, sometimes you got to sit back and kind of enjoy what you've done and talk about it, because bragging about it once in a while feels good. At the same time, you know, I want to hear about other people's stories and stuff, but yeah, it's just. This is my brag session. I'll be completely honest. It would make me a self-centered dick, then no, so be it.
No, for sure. Have you, I mean, because you have an engineering background.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing when you're working on movies, and I have a point that I'm trying to get to here. So stick with me, everybody. I'm not making a story. I'm actually asking a question, but there's a little bit of a story attached here. So Ben, you're an engineer. When you're working on a movie, it's usually more on the functional side versus creative side. You're not building costumes. You're not building special effects. You're making functional props and mechanisms and things like that.
It makes things move.
Make things move and blink and flash and so on.
Yep.
When you were on last time, you talked a little bit about your first gig, which was Star Trek Beyond.
Yep.
The set that rotated.
Mm-hmm.
You got a little bit into how that was done, but again, for everybody that's watching here, can you break down a little bit the process of building that big of a set? Because you're not building that yourself, right? They got a crew of people.
No, and anything that I talk about, there is nothing that is only Ben. There's you know. It is always a team. In this case, I just happen to be sort of the forefront talking on behalf of the team. There are certain things that I do that, definitely add to the team. Otherwise I wouldn't be here. But yeah, everything's a team. And especially on the Star Trek one, that was a massive team. Like, we're talking about things like multi-million dollars in just material costs alone, not man hours or the design or anything like that. But
because you had big, massive engines that were turning that set, right?
Yeah, 1600 horsepower motors were the like what we needed to use to turn that. So, effectively, we were making giant man-eating machines, and you got to make sure that you're not going to kill an actor or a stunty on it.
So first of all, do you remember physically how big the set was?
When they started putting it together, like if you're doing computer-aided design, like a good portion of that job, you got this little tiny thing about yay big on your screen, and you can't really conceive. And then when you go there, when it's first getting erected, and you're just like, holy fuck, what have I done? This thing's 40 feet in diameter. It's taller than most 2-3 story houses. And,
oh wow, 40 feet in diameter. So that means it's got to be probably like 100 feet long.
Well, okay, so there was two sets though. There was one set that was about 35 feet in diameter. And once it's up on the stand so that it can rotate, it definitely, hits about the 40, 50 foot level.
Right.
And it was 100 feet long. So that was like, an entire hallway set of the Starship Enterprise. And then you've got the 2-story one, which was 40 feet in diameter, which was even taller. We had to go into a shipyard and use one of the shipbuilding hangars because it was the only place we could put it to fit. It was too big for any other building in Vancouver.
Wow.
And it's 2 stories tall on the inside. On the outside, it's, you take something that's 2 stories that tall. Well, the ring that's got to go around it is like nearly double the size. And that was about 60 feet long in depth. But, it definitely made up for in girth.
So how are they building that? Are they building like a metal structure that they're then decorating on the inside, basically, to look like the Enterprise?
Yep.
Like, is that what they're doing?
Yeah, so we'd meet with a set deck or whoever's building the inside. We find out what they're building, what it looks like, and then there's ballpark estimates. At I've got a thing where it's about 7 to 12 pounds per square foot of any set. So just wall space or floor space. You figure out the square footage, and then multiply that by your factor. That'll tell you how much this thing's going to weigh. Then you got to figure out the structure that can hold that, and then the motors that can move that, and the kind of bearings and stuff like that. The bearings, just to have this whole set ride on and do it quietly. There's some behind the scenes Star Trek Beyond video on YouTube. It's really awesome. And it shows these sets and you can hear them squealing because there's, you can pay for very, very expensive bearings and they're still going to squeal. Like the forces involved in this are amazing. You got to make sure that you have people at different areas to make sure that no hands and nobody's inside around any moving parts because it will kill you, right? And these things weren't built for safety and they weren't built with giant safety measures because we don't have time for that. So you bring in people to make sure that no one goes past this line, and you practice with stuff, and every time you're going to find things that are wrong with it, and you got to know that something's going to be wrong and you got to be prepared to figure it out. You don't have time to piss around. You have time to figure out what you've been hired to figure out that problem. So in the end, it's got to work and you just got to be ready to lean into really shitty situations and make it happen.
Now, when it came to the specific set, you were brought in to design this set, to design how it's going to turn. I guess is the basics.
And
how are we gonna?
Yeah.
Oh, and the structure. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I know. I did the structure, the mechanics, then calculations. One thing we found, here's an example: is that giant long tube. We didn't anticipate it to twist, and it started twisting really bad because the way the set was and everything, and we couldn't have it do that. We ended up, if you look at a shark bone of all things, and why these things pop into my head, I have no idea. But on a shark bone, if you take it apart, there's a spiral that goes one way. It's sort of a fiber that goes one way. And then there's another fiber that comes around the other way. And I learned that once as a kid, and I thought that was kind of interesting. So I took along, the balloons the magicians uses, the long ones. And I took a piece of tape, made a coil. Took a piece of tape, made a coil the other way. be damned if you can't bend that freaking balloon. It makes it huge and strong. So I just figured, okay, well, let's just throw a bunch of cables around the outside in giant coil and another giant coil, rock solid. But it's, it's these things that you kind of have to deal with. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it is amazing because that's way beyond my. I'm not an engineer. I'm the creative guy.
No, but
he's the tech guy.
Even knowing the shark bone thing, right? Like how and learning the lesson from that and applying it the way you applied it.
Well, and like here rates, that right there, there's a bike right here.
Yeah, that's super bike.
You can't really see it, so it's blurred out. It's a Popular Science. Now that broke 2 world records. It was a human-powered vehicle that I helped design. A guy drove it or rode it for 24 hours straight and went 1,046 kilometers in 24 hours just under his own legs. Now, while we're trying to solve this, I always like going back to nature, right? And we're trying to figure out, okay, so this thing's going to be going through the air at about this speed. What animals are shaped the right way to work through this? And in aeronautics, you have this thing called a Reynolds number, and that's sort of the dynamic viscosity of the air. I know it's a bunch of words, but follow along with me here. So that determines how fast things can sort of slip through the air. So I just kind of ran that number through Google and said, what animals kind of move in this speed or in this kind of fluid? And it turns out that salmon do. And that thing's shaped like a salmon.
Interesting.
Right. So yeah, it's but these are these really weird sort of things that I think only an ADHD mind can start reaching for. At the same time, there's things that you do that will completely and utterly baffle me because my brain doesn't work that way. I'm lucky that my brain does things that seem to have a lot of wow factor, but it doesn't mean that they're any more valuable than anybody else's ideas.
Well, no, fair enough, but not everybody can think in an engineering manner to figure out these types of problems, right? Thinking and looking at nature to solve engineering problems, I never would have thought of something like that's genius. It really is.
I'm not gonna sit there and try to outthink billions of years of evolution.
Well,
man.
fair enough.
Like, come on, you know. Darwin knew what was going on, man.
Hey, Ben, before we go, we've been on for over an hour now, but before we go, did you somehow end up with, and I don't know if you can say this, and if you can't, just say no. We'll talk about it once we're off the air.
Why is the recording still on, Jay?
Did you somehow end up with any remnants of Ghostbusters Afterlife shoot?
Did you get to bring anything home?
Anything?
Absolutely, I did. And I begged for forgiveness recently, and that turned into a small YouTube series deal. So,
so you have the RTV, is what you're saying?
I have. During the filming of the show, I was asked to drive it at high speed down a road. Normally, we had a professional driver.
Oh, so you were the one
who wasn't there
driving the RTV?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's wicked.
Did you put an FPV camera in it, or are you driving it from afar?
We were driving it. I was in the chase vehicle behind the camera car, and it was beside the camera car. You know the shot where you see it just zooming down the road and the grass is in the background? Yeah. A few seconds after that shot, it went underneath the camera car's wheels and exploded. And you're going to get to see a whole lot of this shot. But watch the YouTube Ghostbusters YouTube channel come the end of this month, early February. And you're going to get the whole story. So anyway, the way productions work is that you write off and these things are not cheap. I honestly thought, I'm fucking fired. This is it. I'm done. I'm never going to get to live this dream of working on Ghostbusters. And it turned out that it made the shot. Jason and the DOP were really happy with what was done. And you have all these parts. So we got to write the thing off. And we harvested all the parts that we could for replacement parts for the other RTVs that we had. Yeah. And we threw all this stuff in a bin. And then our producer comes by and goes, yes, it's destroyed, throw it out. So I threw it out into the
trunk of your car.
Just being responsible and recycling it.
Right. And then you have, like, at the end of the show, you have all these spare parts and everything. Like, when they're returning everything to the prop archives and everything, they don't want the bin of spare link arms for the RC vehicle. They don't have the space or the ability to store any of that stuff, so they sell it off. And I made sure to buy all the spare parts at the end of the show.
There you go. So now you're actually able to rebuild it for real, like for real, with all the original parts.
I should have brought, not with all the original parts. The radio controlled, the Traxxas vehicle, I had to buy a new one.
Fair enough.
Although, okay, when I say I had to buy a new one, again, going back when we got these RTDs, I didn't want to wreck them, but I knew what platform they used, so we bought one of those radio controlled cars so we could just get a feel for it, of the platform. So I bought it at a steep discount, but I got that one. So it all comes from the same production, but it's not the same vehicle. It's probably going to be about, I figure about 20 to 30% screen used. But I'm totally good with that, man. I absolutely adore that.
I would still call that screen used. I mean, you've had to rebuild it, but I mean, heck.
Yeah. And so I had the guy, the RC driver that drove it in most of the scenes. He came over to help me build, and we filmed that. In fact, we just filmed. It was last week. We filmed the first episode of the actual rebuild, and next week or this Saturday we're going to do the second part with him. And so you've got the actual people who basically ran it are putting it all back together, and it was so much fun that by the time we got the wheels on and stuff, we're at the aesthetic point, but we put the wheels on, we put it on the bench, and both of us just went, because I almost started to cry, man. It's so cool to see it come back, and we were both all goosebumpy and just dude, it was so awesome, and I can't wait to get it going and hand them the controls and go, please don't wreck it. Although I'm the one who wrecked the original one. Hey,
I feel like what you just said is very relevant to how I felt about Ghostbusters Afterlife. It really was getting those goosebumps for me as well, knowing that, I'm watching the movie, but knowing it was somebody else other than Ivan Reitman and Dan Aykroyd that were doing this movie was like, okay, don't wreck this now. When you finally see it, you're like, oh my God, they got it right. They got this right. They got that right.
Yeah. and you always have the trolls that they did this wrong and that wrong. And
off the mark.
Well, whether they're off the mark or, this is the way I see it, is usually they're going for attention. And as soon as you start feeding them, they get more attention and they get uglier. So just don't feed the trolls.
Don't feed the trolls.
Yeah. I mean, look, I can respect somebody that tells me, you know what, I didn't like the movie. And here's why I didn't like the movie. That's completely fine. I have no issues with that.
I'm going to, hopefully I'm not messing things up, but I'm going to go on to, it was on my TikTok, I believe. Basically what it boils down to is somebody was talking about how they thought that Egon had offed himself in the movie. And no, he didn't.
He didn't off himself. He had no choice. Once he hit the trap,
right,
and it blew, the power blew up, he was done. What was he going to do?
Right. I mean? So no, but the thing is they figured potential suicide, and I'm like, this guy's trying to troll and stuff, and this guy piped in, and I gotta write down what he said, but he had a very valid point in exploring the possibilities, and it wasn't necessarily somebody trying to be mean or rude. They just kind of wanted to know for their own curiosity's sake. And because of that, it leaves you to your own imagination. It's like, I hate books that feed you every detail and they're like this thick, and there is no imagination, because I know exactly what color the rock was and what speckles were on. I want to invent that. And if in your mind Egon offed himself for the better good of humanity, then that's your story. That's not my story, but that's your story.
Fair enough. Yeah,
because they didn't exactly, it wasn't, the detail was, he died of this. Like, we inferred what he died from, but it's not like they said he died of a heart attack or.
Well, they did say he died from a heart attack.
Oh, they did say that. I missed that part.
He died from a heart attack. Well, that's what Phoebe said.
That's what the official,
when she calls Ray, is it when she calls Ray? I forget who she's saying it to, but she specifically says he died a week ago from a heart attack.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, it was with her on the phone with Ray. Yeah,
I think it was when she's talking to Ray on the phone. Yeah,
yeah.
Which was an awesome touch as well, when she's calling the number the Ghostbusters number from the original ad, and it rings on the red phone on Ray's desk. I don't know if you guys remember, but in Ghostbusters 2, when they show up at Ray's occult books, he's got the red phone on his desk. And lo and behold, when she calls, it rings on the red phone on his desk. I thought that was a great touch.
So many callbacks. Like, dude, like there was like Jason made sure that there was hundreds, if not, as many callbacks as you could as far as props and stuff go.
That's the problem a lot of people had with the movie. Is it's all fan service, blah blah blah. It's a stupid movie. It's all about pleasing the fans, and that was my point.
Make a movie for the fans,
for the fans, yeah.
Like you're making the third movie in a series. Like, why would you not make it for the fans? Like, I don't understand like those comments of it's all fan service. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, I don't know. You then don't watch the show. Go watch reality TV or something.
Yeah. It was, I mean, I think they got it right. I love the fan service. I thought it was bang on. Nothing was too in your face. Mm-hmm. Yes, if there's so much fan service that it detracts from the story, I might have an issue with it, but this didn't do that. It was always just little tidbits that the fans would recognize and be like, oh, the crunch bar there,
It was delivered in very creative ways.
And Twinkies and the stacked books, and there's a bunch of set deck and props. There's a lot of people going, well, remember this? Yeah, put it in. People would go they would go up to Jason and go what about this piece that was in there? And he's like, do we have it? Yeah. And he's like, then go do it. Like that was another thing that was awesome about Jason, is he would stop and listen to you and listen to what you had to say and take it into account. Granted, you're going to have the people that come up with not necessarily the best ideas and stuff, but you'd still listen and go yeah, okay, that's a good idea, but let's move on.
But still, I love that they go to the extent of showing you Egon's collection of spores and fungus.
Molds, and fungus.
That they go to the extent of pulling the Twinkie out of or the crunch bar packaging out of his suit. The crunch bar that Peter gives him in the first. I mean, it's obviously not the same packaging, but I love that they take the time to go to these little details just for the people that know.
Even in
the right toaster in the kitchen, dude.
The toaster in the kitchen. That's right. The dancing toasters in the kitchen.
Dancing toaster. The end credit scenes with the cards. What card am I showing you?
Oh, that was awesome.
Look at the graphics. A lot of people don't realize. Look at the graphics in behind the credit scene, or during the credits. There's a lot of the graphics.
Yeah.
Read through and look at the formulas and look at what it says. I got to consult on some of that stuff because they were asking me, does this make sense? Does this formula actually go with the genre? So right down to the background graphics of the credits was fine-tooth combed.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to go back and look at that now.
Yeah. It's definitely a movie I'm gonna watch a few more times.
So okay, I hate doing this. Rob was a huge, especially Matrix 1 fan, and we went and watched Matrix Resurrection together, which we were very disappointed in.
Haven't seen it.
I will not watch Matrix Resurrection again. I may watch it one more time.
Were you a fan of the Matrix movies, Ben?
Oh yeah,
you are.
All right. Well, we're not going to spoil.
I'm not going to spoil it for you. All I'm going to say is we were disappointed.
But the thing is that I'm not your usual watcher. I don't care about spoilers. I can always enjoy a movie for what it is. Mm-hmm. Knowing a little bit of the plot line isn't going to ruin 2 hours of movie. So go ahead.
Well, there is no plot line. The movie's not about the Matrix. Okay. I don't know what else to say.
We're not going to spoil the plot.
Yeah, it's not about the Matrix. It's anyway. Look, the point I'm trying to make is I'm the kind of guy that I watch Ghostbusters on a regular basis. I've seen Ghostbusters 1 and 2 hundreds of times. I've seen Back to the Future 1, 2, 3 hundreds of times. I've seen, there's a bunch of movies that I will just rewatch. The Avengers movies, especially the first Avengers. Yeah. I've seen that movie 100 times. The Abyss, I've seen 100 times.
Yeah,
there's a lot of movies.
Matrix Resurrections, you're only going to watch once.
Matrix Resurrections, I may rewatch once, but Ghostbusters Afterlife is now going to be in my regular rotation.
Yeah,
I'm going to go back and watch this movie over and over again. That's how good I thought it was.
So is it like Bill and Ted's kind of I don't know. The last Bill and Ted movie was a bit of a disappointment to me. I was just like, but I think it was also that I couldn't 12-year-old myself or teenage myself again to watch it.
You know what I mean? I feel like I think you hit it on the head there with Bill and Ted. It worked when we were 12. Today it doesn't work so much. With the Matrix, they sell you on the fact that it's the Matrix. They're going to wow you, right? They're going to reinvent filmmaking. They're going to reinvent special effects. They're going to give you something brand new, the new bullet time. Well, they don't. They don't wow you with anything. They don't give you anything special. The first 10 minutes of the movie, you're like, what is going on? Like, what is this silly movie?
Yeah, all that stuff we just talked about with Ghostbusters, where the attention given to the callbacks and the feeling it gave me after I finished watching it, like there's an emotional roller coaster. It was happy, it was sad, it was crying. That's what I wanted from the Matrix, because that's one of my movies where I've watched 1,000 times, and to go back to see that one coming back 20 years later, I wanted that feeling out of it, and I didn't get that.
Well, and remember too that at least for me, this is when I see movies. If you ask me about the storyline of 90% of the movies I've watched, I can't tell you anything, but I can tell you how I felt when I left the theater, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I generally gauge the movies on. Like Indiana Jones, man, I know those things upside down and backwards. I absolutely adore those. But, most of the other stuff I really didn't follow. But I can tell you whether I thought it was a good movie or not and how jacked I was when I left the theater, I guess that's the best way to describe it is how did you feel when you left the theater? So,
yeah, you're right. That's how Jack doesn't feel.
Yeah. When I saw Ghostbusters, the first thing I wanted to do was go home and rewatch it.
Yep.
Yeah, and you're jumping on the internet, like looking up stories.
Yeah, I want to hear reviews. I could not get enough Ghostbusters after watching it.
I'll be honest, when I walked out of that, you see those guys who've just been inflated like 10 times and chest puffed out. Well, fuck yeah, that was me.
I did that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was I gotta say, you guys really got it right. Everybody got it right. Jason, I can't say I'm a huge Jason Reitman fan. I mean, I like the stuff that he's done, but it's not like he's one of my top directors. But man, and maybe it's because, like Bill said I think is on Fallon, Jason's a Ghostbusters kid, right?
Yeah.
Like, he was on set.
Brownstone boy.
He was the kid running on set while they were filming the movies. He literally grew up with the Ghostbusters. Actually. Yeah. I didn't grow up with the Ghostbusters. I grew up watching the Ghostbusters. He grew up with the Ghostbusters. So,
well, beyond that,
maybe
too,
that's what
Jason's office. He's got one of the old stunt pack wands sitting on it's in a in a box on the wall, right? And it's just like, oh my god, to look at that history, it's just amazing.
Did you guys have access to any of the old packs and wands and traps and?
If I needed them and had a good reason to ask for them, I would get them. So, for example,
so they do still exist somewhere.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of pieces that exist. In my recent trip out to LA, I interviewed Jason for this series I'm building, the RTV, and we got access to the Sony archives and went in and we looked at some of the original stuff. And damn, dude, it's so cool.
Dude, how can you sneak us in there?
Yeah, I can't.
You get to do some cool things that nobody else can do.
Even if you're like, say, Ghost Corps or whatever franchise on set, and you call up and going, "Hey, we need access to the archives," you're paying so much per hour to have somebody like me walk in, right? So they even they pay to get in there, man. So, yeah.
I don't think that's in the Geeks and Co budget right now, Jess.
Yeah, no. It's not our 417 followers that
that all being said is you should follow a guy on TikTok. It's Props to History. It's Jason or Michael Jason. It's Michael Corey. And I met him while I was out in LA. I followed him on TikTok, and you got to follow some of his stuff because he gets in behind the scenes, and we helped him with shooting of some segments for a TV series that he's self-funding and working on. And you're gonna get some of this nerd stuff that you so crave. You're gonna get it off of him, man. And you want to watch. In fact, his TikToks. I'm sorry about this. If you look him up tonight, it'll probably be 1 a.m. before you're in bed because you're gonna start cranking through it. Going, this is
All right, I'll make sure to
I
wait till
made a note
tomorrow.
here.
I'll make sure to wait till tomorrow. I think you have a link to one of his things on your link tree. I don't know if it's his TikTok or what's. I didn't actually click on it yet. I haven't checked it out.
So what that is that he is self-funding his TV show based off of the TikToks that he does, and and it's not cheap to make your own TV show, and he's tired of trying to pitch it and everything, so he's like, screw it, I'm going to do it. And I admire people like that so much. So anything I can do to help him out, I've got a few contacts in LA and linked him up with that so that he can make part of the show that he wants to make. And since I was down there, we had some cameras and stuff, so we helped him shoot at Fonco Studios and a few other places. And it was just, and you also get to meet the guy, and he is this walking encyclopedia. Don't ever play trivia with the guy. If you ever meet him, I know that he will kill you in Trivial Pursuit, hands down. He's just walking Encyclopedia Britannica. Man, I'm losing my ability to speak.
We've got Schuyler Lake here on Instagram saying, I just put a new addition to my Ghostbusters display and it looks awesome. I thought Egon's house was the one Ray was talking about. He was born in the first movie. Okay. Right. I didn't catch that, but that's a good point. But what's this? What did you add to your display? You never actually said. I'm curious now as to what was added to Schuyler Lake's display. The farmhouse. So the farmhouse is in Calgary.
Remember, these aren't real buildings.
Oh, so it wasn't. I thought they said it was an actual house. The barn
was real.
The barn was real. Yeah. I thought it was the house that was real. That was an actual old house. No, so it was built.
No, they built 2 of them. One on studio, one in the studio, and one out on the hill.
The one in the studio, I'm assuming, is for the interior shots.
No, you know what? They were both used for interior and exterior shots. There's the final sequence was filmed inside so that you can make sure that everything was done properly.
Fair enough. I mean, with the lighting and the effects, and you want it to be dark and blah blah blah. Yeah. So
and
that
the trap field, hundreds of traps opening up in a certain specific order and stuff, and you want to throw that outside.
Wait.
And the guy's like, no freaking way.
Let's tell us about how that.
Hang on. Let's back up for a second here. Now we're way over our time here. We got people joining in, but now I want to hear.
I hate saying this, but I'm a talking kind of guy, and this happens. Yeah.
Are you saying there was 100 traps? There was actually 100 traps in a field that you guys sat on.
Yeah,
90 traps.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
In my mind that was all CG.
This was special effects. Special effects went and bought a bunch of toy traps and set them up and had them all open at certain sequences. There was multiple different opening sequences, whether they worked in a row or they opened from the center out, or whether think about a dot matrix.
Yeah, I forget now how they opened in the movie. They do open in a specific sequence in the movie. I remember that, but I don't remember what that sequence is. But
yeah, but there were, and then anytime that they were set off, they were set to open but not close. So as soon as that set was done, and as soon as they said that that shot was done, you'd have effects coming in, closing the doors,
closing all the traps one by one.
So you just have this like, it looks like somebody stepped on the anthill. It's like, save the queen, save the queen.
click.
And then so the lights that you see coming from the trap are actual lights inside the traps. So when they open up, the light is not CG light. There's an actual light in them.
It's a combination of both. I believe they did add
Fair
a lot
enough.
of CG to that.
Right.
And there were lights in them, yes, that shone up as well, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
There was lights in the traps that I had that were never used. We made sure that they were there, and these were lights that you couldn't leave on the inside of the trap for too long because it would start to melt the aluminum. It was freaking crazy how hot these LEDs get, but wow, were they bright.
Whoa, they're LEDs and they're getting that hot? Wow.
Yeah, so yeah, an LED that's getting that hot, you can only imagine how much light that thing is pumping out. Like, you can't look at it.
Yeah, no, that's insane. Wow. All right. Well, listen, we've been on for an hour and a half now. We're way over our hour. But hey, no, listen,
Oh,
no
this has
need to
been
worries
fun.
at all. Obviously, the conversation is good and it has been fun. Ben, we're gonna have you back again at some point. Like I said, keep an eye on your messages. I'm working something here. I'm trying to get in touch with one person specifically, but I've got a couple of people that might be interested in doing a little friendly, like I said, competition.
A
Let's put it
build
that
off,
way.
yeah.
A friendly
I'm
build
in.
off, which
That sounds like fun.
might be a fun thing. But so stay tuned. Thanks to everybody watching here live on Instagram. We still got like constantly 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 people constantly coming and going. So really appreciate everybody. A lot of Ghostbusters, different chapter Ghostbusters showing up online. So that's amazing. Thanks to you, Ben. But thanks everybody for watching. Thanks everybody for sticking with us till the end of this episode of the podcast. I'm working on a thumbnail now, and I think it's going to be worth it just for the damn thumbnail. I'm having so much fun.
I worked on a thumbnail like almost all my life.
It's still there. It's still there.
You can see it's been smashed. There's a couple little wounds.
Yes. Well, you know, a working man's hands. What are you gonna do? But Rob, thanks, buddy, for coming on. Me and Rob you're gonna be seeing some more stuff from me and Rob in the next.
Yeah, we're gonna try doing some of our own build videos.
Yeah, we're working on some stuff.
Casting people, come on, let's hear it.
We're working on some stuff. We may be changing our direction a little bit of our Fan Expo build. I think we went a little too ambitious. Not that we don't want to do. Okay, Ben, so we'll tell you right now, our plan was to build Transformers, big Transformers.
Nice.
And we still plan on doing that. My concern is I don't want to rush that. So I don't want to say we'll have those done by Fan Expo and rush it to meet Fan Expo
time.
For Fan Expo to then get canceled because of COVID, and then we've rushed building these for nothing. So
come on, go out to the Hacksmith in your area, get a hold of him, get his mech loader, and then
well, he's a little bit far. I mean, he is in the Waterloo area, Guelph area. So he's like 2.5 hours from where we're at. So he's not next door. Let's put it that way. But that would be amazing. That's another shop I would love to go and visit and chat with, because that new shop of theirs is amazing. But yeah, so the plan was to do Transformers. We're switching it up a little bit. There was a brand new teaser that came out this week for the new Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power, the new Amazon Prime show. There's already, and Rob, I have to talk to you about that. There's already a massive group cosplay that is being planned for Fan Expo.
Okay.
So yeah, so we're potentially getting in on that action, and I'll leave it at that for now. Keep checking back over the next couple of weeks. I'm sure we'll be talking about it. And don't worry, we're not abandoning the Transformers, guys. We're still going to do the Transformers.
Just going to take a bit more time.
Just remember, there's more than meets the eye.
Exactly. We're going to take our time. We want them to be done right. You know, for me, Transformers when I was a kid was one of my very, very favorite properties. So I want to do it justice. I don't want to just rush it and not do it right.
Yeah,
totally.
For sure.
Are we going to see you in Toronto again this year? Or maybe see how things go, Fan Expo? I think it's in August. I guess it's
Comic-Con is supposed to be in March, but I think that's likely going to get canceled.
Probably.
Fan Expo is in end of August.
Yeah.
It all depends, but there's some things that I'm bidding on as far as shows go, and it might take me to Toronto and New York. So, yeah, potentially.
Well, listen, if you ever are, hit us up. You know, go grab some food and some drinks. You know, especially if you're in Toronto. I mean, we're skipping a hop away from downtown Toronto, so you know, definitely hit us up. Thanks again for coming back, Ben. Really, really appreciate it. It's always great having a chat with you. Rob, I'll see you in a couple days. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. Make sure you click that subscribe button below if you haven't already. Same with you guys here live on Instagram. There's still 10 people live. Make sure you go follow us here on YouTube. Geeks & Co. on YouTube, the Geeks & Company. But thanks for sticking with us. Stay geeky, everybody. And we'll see you next time.